Hello. You thought I wouldn't make my daily video, and so did I, but here goes nothing. And I haven't decided yet which opening to cover, so... But since I have the e-pawn out already, let's do, for example, some Ruy Lopez. Now there's so many different variations in Ruy Lopez that I'm going to make many videos of that. If you would want me to make a video of some opening next, then just suggest in the comments. I might not do any specific, like, unknown variations, because I'm trying to be kind of not too accurate, but of course all the main openings I will do, and from the big openings like the Sicilian, I will of course do many videos. And my goal is to do 100 videos total, because more than that it would be difficult to watch, and less than that it would not be useful, maybe. So let's see, I'd like to cover perhaps the Berlin defense, which is very common in the Ruy Lopez nowadays, thanks to players like Kramnik, whose Berlin defense is almost impenetrable. It's like you can't get a win against Kramnik almost if he plays the Berlin defense. So here, white can castle, which is the most common, just ignoring this threat against the e-pawn. He can also play d3, which protects the e-pawn. And that seems to have even better chances than castling, but it's not as common, so maybe the statistics are not so reliable. Although there's already 2,300 games, so... And white can play knight c3, protecting the pawn, or moves like queen e2, or bishop takes c6, or even just d4, which is quite bold. Let's look at that. Let's see if it works. White takes there, and here white usually castles and doesn't take the pawn because of this vulnerable file, I guess. And now white delays this recapture, but I bet he's going to recapture soon. e5, knight e8, bishop f4, f6, takes on c6, and then he takes on d4. But this is a pretty rare variation, so just a curiosity. Let's look at castles. Here, black usually always takes on e4. He might also play bishop c5, and now white plays almost always just d4, striking at the e5 pawn. And here black backs down to d6. white makes an exchange to be able to control these squares a little bit better, and then he takes with the pawn on e. Now the knight goes to f5. Queens are usually exchanged, and the queen knight is developed. Now here black usually plays king e8, trying to find a home for the king. He can also just play h6, preventing any possible bishop g5s or knight g5s. But he can also just go back with the knight to e7, maybe with the idea of bringing it to d5, or just simply maybe develop bishop d7 or bishop e6. There's many possibilities. Let's look at king e8, h3, a flight square for the king, I presume. Here most common moves are a5 and knight e7. Now I don't understand really a5, so let's see what happens. Here there's so many options and none of them is really dominant, so maybe we shouldn't go further. I think this would be a good position to remember. White has this e5 pawn here, and black will try to maybe prove that it's weak, and white will try to show that it's a strength, and black will try to find a home for his king, perhaps developing bishop and then king e7 or something, perhaps with h6. I have no idea, but yeah, there's good chances for a draw. But if black is not careful, white can also win. So I mean, black wins are a little bit more rare. Let's look at some replies after knight. Then knight e7. Here most common are rook e1 or knight e4, just further strengthening the control of d6 and f6. And here black plays knight g6. Okay, so that's where it was going. Knight e4, h6, and let's say bishop d2, c5, and this is a quite rare position, but it's one way of going forward with things. I'm kind of trying to browse what could be the plans for both teams. Let's look at h5, bishop f4, bishop e7, rook a d1, and this seems to be exclusively a draw, except for some victories for black. Knight h4, takes, knight e2, and there seems to be no real advantage for white. I guess because black has that bishop pair that's controlling many squares. So if you want a win against a stronger opponent, then, or you need a win against same level opponent, like for example on the final round, then I suggest that you try the Berlin defense. If black plays 10 bishop e7, then white can play bishop g5, offering a trade, which is drawish. Bishop f4 also doesn't offer much to white. g4, kicking the knight, or rook d1, rook f d1. And yeah, it's difficult to find a real plan for white. There's just these individual moves that you can make. You can try to improve your position, but it's surprisingly it's quite drawish. So I hope you enjoyed this study, and hopefully you find your own plan in this position, or in the Berlin defense, if you reach some other position maybe. So until next time.